Victor Bray, 225 miles per hour.
SoFar.
Drag racing. Gut-shaking, ear-splitting, tyre-smoking action. Supercharged race cars and bikes going head-to-head, eating up the quarter mile at phenomenal speeds. And legions of dedicated fans all over the country are lapping it up. Drag racing is Australia's fastest growing motorsport, and one of its most successful sons is Victor Bray. For 20 years, Victor's been thrilling crowds with his own brand of boots and all racing. Victor Bray, Rough Diamond, Burnout King, and just lately, the fastest and quickest top Doorslammer in the world. And this is where it all began, burning along the dirt tracks on the family tomato farm north of Brisbane.
I was one of the many. There's an FJ Holden, this one. Got a heap of these around the paddock, FJs, FXs, FCs, FEs, HRs, you name it. A couple of old Chevys thrown in, a couple of old Ford Prefects, they're laying all over the place. My dad told me to clean them up about 20 years ago, so I'm just letting them all rust away. Dad, and the influence he had over me when I was young was probably most of what started it all off. One of the distinct things I remember is Dad changing the bearing in the bottom of one of the old Chev trucks here. I remember him pulling the bearing out, it was all worn, he put a bit of leather in there. And it always amazed me that it kept running, still running today. And and then he bought me an old Ford Prefect for $30 when I was a young fella, about 12. And I started driving around and it actually stopped going. I thought that was the end of it, like the cars were broken. Once they stopped, they had a burnout valve and he showed me how to pull the head off it. We bought a new valve, lapped the valve in and kept driving it, and it was just absolutely amazed me and probably thrilled me when I was a young fella to see that you can actually fix these things up and get them going again.
He was always interested in anything that moved on wheels. I think being on a farm that lots of things are mechanical things, he always was interested, yeah. We encouraged him.
Being a young fella, I bought myself a 1975, I think it was, Holden Sandman panel. That was my first V8 and proceeded to do as much damage to gearbox and transmission as I could over the next couple of years.
We had the normal misgivings, any mother and father. It was, the boys were fairly rough on wheels around the paddock, but I think be fairly standard for country boys of their time. You just learnt to live with it and hope that...
we lost a few fences, didn't we?
We started racing around the streets a little bit in them days. It was a lot different nowadays, and what we'd do a good weekend away from me and Marie was to, even the kids when after they'd been born, was to jump in the Chevy, shoot off up the road and find a country town somewhere with some local rev heads and go out and do a bit of racing, sit around, have a couple of drinks and piss off back home again. The 57 used to be undercoat grey. There used to be 3 miles of dirt road down here to get down to the farm, and the problem was getting down here. So, good paint jobs and that, and they didn't really interest me that much anyway, so I just had undercoat grey. And what happened was I was down there and I had a bit of a run-in with the hierarchy at Surfers Paradise Raceway that said I had to repaint the vehicle. It couldn't allow to race cars in undercoat because of a cosmetic policy or something that they had. So I turned up the next meeting in flat black and had a bit of an impact. People loved it, I liked it, so it sort of stuck for a while, I suppose.
He was a bit different, Victor. He sort of stood out from the crowd. He was a bit of a cult figure even then. He was this cowboy farmer sort of thing, and he had a bit of a following even when it was nitrous. But his following really started to blossom when he became part of the Wild Bunch. It went from there, he went from the small block to the Hemi and so on, and that's how it all worked. We were running the street meetings at Surfers Paradise, and that's where I reckon that Victor started. There was nothing else but surface in those days, apart from Sydney track and all that sort of stuff. And Victor was running the street meetings. Had this black 57 Chevy that he still got out there with nitrous oxide on it, small block Chevy. And he ran with that. Victor ran at our opening meeting as well with that nitrous oxide, but when we created a thing called the Wild Bunch, Victor threw away his nitrous and put a blower onto his 57 Chevy, and it all started from there.
Wild Bunch was dial your own racing, and it sort of started off 10 years ago at Willowbank. Was the first time I ever drove a wild blown supercharged car, and that was I ran that I was running nitrous oxide a lot of years before that. But at the first round, I put an engine out of Graham Easton's old dragster in the old black Chevy down the back here, and we went out there. I'm thinking to myself, oh, this thing's got some serious power, and in them days it did have, and that was sort of the start of the Wild Bunch. The Wild Bunch was a lot of guys that were, I suppose, on the wild end of drag racing in sedans. I mean, there's the Cole Dunns, the John Paynes, they were just all there, and it wasn't exciting, the Jack brothers. I could rattle on and on. There's a lot of us. And we used to cruise around the country, and the crowd used to love us. In them days, the cars running 9s and 8s, and it was the Wild Bunch. That's what it was all about, We just cruised around. It was a lot of fun. We used to go to summer nats, and you'd sort of be seen as that there, a bit of a name sort of stuck, and it was good. And I suppose that's where all our reputations were made.
Well, Victor actually ran at one of the first races here in Eastern Creek in 1991. That was with his original black Chevy. It was a very awful car, but he was very popular in those days. The black Chev was rough and tough, and that's what Victor was about. And the crowd have always taken to him. And on the first events that were here, he was spectacular, and nothing's changed.
That day, the day that I remember most about all my racing in my whole life was the day that I sort of said to myself, hang on a minute, you can do this. You're actually out there racing this car. You're racing against these guys that you thought were gurus 5 years ago, and you're beating them, and you tune the cars up better than them, and you can actually do it. So while you can do it, you might as well keep doing it.
What began as tinkering with engines and electronics in this old shed has developed into something a little more serious. Today, with racing commitments all over the country, the Victor Bray Roadshow is a large, world-class operation, and it's definitely no longer a one-man band. For starters, the entire Bray family is right there by his side. His wife Marie, daughters Kelly, Billy Joe, and son Ben.
Yeah, it was very hard. We used to work really hard and spend all our money on the car and eat a lot of tomatoes and cabbages and things that we grew on the farm, but yeah, we survived. We went without a lot of things, but it was good fun doing it and struggling. It's a lot easier now. I'm quite happy to support Vic and help him like I'm doing now. So
I just have to look after the apparel and merchandising side of it all. I order all the shirts and look after everything and make sure we've got enough stock for all the up and coming meetings. I wouldn't do anything else. It's almost a full-time job. It's what he loves to do, so we're always behind him, 100%.
And the youngest Brays aren't content to simply watch Dad race.
He's always encouraged, said if you want to do it, because I want to be a mechanic, so get the background on all the cars, and he's always encouraged. He said, come down, work with me, and he's teaching me and Bill about all the big engines. And Dad's going to put a 350 Chevy into one of his old race cars, and I'm going to race that, and then slowly get bigger and bigger. I want to race either the top alcohol car that we got or the custom line in the near future.
Yeah, when I was a baby, Dad put me under his first street car and revved it, so I got used to smoke already. Yeah, he wants me getting either the funny car or the one he's driving.
Which would you prefer?
Funny car.
Why?
They look more fun.
I can only give them an opportunity. I can't make them racers. I can't make Ben a racer. I can just give him a junior dragster an opportunity to go out there and race, He waited 4 years for his junior dragster. A lot of criticism from him I copped over a long period of time, but at the time we couldn't afford one. I didn't really, there wasn't really the class bracket was big enough, and I don't push any of them to do anything, and it's all their own decision. And yeah, if they want to race, I'm really glad and proud that they want to go racing.
Of course, there's the other side of the family, Victor's hard-working crew. For the Chevys to run so consistently fast, these guys put in some pretty long days.
20 hours a day. Yeah, about 20 a day. Every 3 days, easy. But prior to that, the build-up to the meeting's the big bit. 2 weeks of sort of 18, 20 hours a day as well before we even get to the track, you know. That's huge.
Everyone gets on edge. Sometimes you say things.
Especially when you got 5 minutes before you got to go out and just cast it with 20,000 pieces.
Plenty of potential there. It's just the hardest thing's getting them down the track straight, you know. Work away at it. I'll go faster.
How much faster?
Who knows? There's no end to it. You just keep going faster.
We're not saying. 5 second pass definitely isn't out of the question. Definitely not.
This is fun. We love working 20 hours a day.
Troy Critchley is the Bray team's newly appointed number 2 driver, and he's not wasting any time in building his own reputation.
He wanted someone that could work on the car and perhaps drive it, you know, so he didn't have to have the worry of turning the spanners on both cars, you know, so give me a shot. I don't think Victor would put a complete imbecile behind a $250,000 car, you know. So, yeah, I think he thought, you know, yeah, we'll give him a shot, you know, it doesn't seem like a complete moron. I've put his car together, you know, 100, 200 times, you know, and said, just get in it, it's right, you know. But I have no great aspirations of driving a top fuel or anything. The Doorslammers are cool, you know, they're fast, they're fun, it's a good class, everybody loves it. You can peel out a good burnout in them. You know, I think he had an idea. He just tag you along and make you work a bit harder.
And of course, there's the all-important sponsors.
Castrol first became involved with Victor in 1990 in a minor way, and at the start of the 92-93 drag racing season that grew to a substantial sponsorship, and Victor became an integral part of the newly formed Castrol Super Team.
The way Castrol Australia views the future is that we're committed to drag racing, like we are to a host of other motorsports, and we are committed to Victor Bray. We think Victor Bray is the best thing that's ever come out of this country in terms of drag racing, and Castrol Australia, as I said, is proud to be his major sponsor.
Right, we got involved with Victor in late 1995 when we heard about him from a local dealer in Queensland, and then spoke to him at the Grand Prix in Adelaide. From there on, we got involved in a partnership with Castrol, and that involved us pretty strongly with Victor, and where Victor agreed to run a second car devoted specifically to Konica. Anyone that knows Victor will know that he's 100% into drag racing and 100% into looking after the people who come to look at drag racing, whether it be a sponsor or whether it be a participant or whether it be a spectator. And that's exactly why we like Victor. High profile and all-round good guy for the sponsor. Okay, here we are at Eastern Creek Raceway with our staging lanes over the side here, our start-up area at the back here, and here we have the first part of the drag strip that the car sees under actual racing conditions. It's what they call a burnout pad. It's actually a piece of concrete, and they use concrete because it's going to have a lot of tyres and stuff spun on it. It's actually a slightly dished area, and it holds a little bit of water, holds a thin film of water. The reason the water is in the burnout pads at all drag strips is because the clutches in all these race cars, drag cars, are made to stop the tyres from spinning. So what we have to do is, and they stop the tyres from spinning at low speeds, and when they get further down the track, they lock up. And the lock up so it gives them the top end mile an hour. And the reason they slip them down the low is to give them the traction. So what they have to have is some water to get the engine revs up to high speeds for the burnout to get the tyres hot. So therefore we have the water at the racetrack. A lot of people think the water at the racetrack is for entirely different reasons, but it's actually there to override the clutch part of the car and the traction part of the car, the gear ratios and the way they're set up in drag racing for quick ETs. So they have to bring them into the water, bring the revs up, then it's overridden the sliding part of the clutch, and they'll then smoke the tyres as long as you want to hold it there. So we come rolling into the water. You'll see most of the blown alcohol cars and the nitro cars will actually roll through the water and they'll wet the tyres in the water, and the burnout won't actually start until they've rolled out of the water. And you'll see someone standing there dropping their hand beside the car, one of the crew, so that they're actually nearly a whole tyre roll out of the water before they hit it. So what that does is, if you did your burnout in the water pad every single time, you'd always have inconsistencies in the amount of water on the tyres. But if you wet all the tyres and then let them roll one whole revolution onto dry ground, then they're exactly, every time you come and race, they're just wet tyres. And then you can do your burnout, and it's easy for throttle response then to get the down track movement. There's two ways, there's two things about doing big or small burnouts and the size of the burnouts. The first one is that if it's a hot day and you don't really want to do a big burnout because there's a certain amount of heat you want in the tyres, and if half or 3/4 of it's already in the tyre, you don't need to be putting more into the tyre. But on a cold night, you can barely get the tyres hot enough. The tyre manufacturers recommend 150 degrees for 5 seconds. So, I mean, that's, 5-second burnout is a fairly long burnout. 150 degrees is pretty hot, so you do need a fair burnout. On cold nights, that would obviously be extended, and on hot days, it'd obviously become less. That's one of the reasons for doing big burnouts, and the other reason is that it's a hell of a lot of fun. So that's it. Here we are. We're sitting in the car, and hopefully everything's been checked and right, and we're pulling up, and we're going to pull the car into stage. So I activate the computer, and that means that when the car moves off, it actually has to move. One of the sensors has to move past a magnet, and that activates and starts recording data. And we're pulling into stage. At this stage, I'm about 12 inches away from the lights at the pre-stage light beam. So we pull it into the beam, and I've got to apply some pressure. I push the brake pedal down until I get about 800 pound on the brake gauge on the dash here, and I hold the button on. That holds 800 pound in the front brake cylinders, gives the car some rolling resistance so it doesn't pull through the light with the drag of the clutch. At this stage, you'll just check around, make sure the fuel's on, everything's all right, everything looks all right, it's out of gear, and everything's sort of happening. You've got oil pressure and stuff, and then you'll bring the revs up. So you're holding on the steering wheel, and you got your finger on the button, holding the car, and you'll bring the revs up to what you think you want to leave on that run. As soon as both lights come on, obviously, you both stage, the starter gives a reasonable amount of time, supposedly it's supposed to give a reasonable amount of time, and then you just drop the clutch. So when you drop the clutch, just take your finger off this button, and that releases the front brakes, and the car's launched. Usually when I'm taking off, I've got one hand over here, over the top of the first to second shift, and I've got one hand on the steering wheel with my finger on the button. So then you drop the clutch, and you're out of there. You left the start line, you're roaring down the track, and then you wait till I've got a shift light up here in front of me. As soon as the shift light flashes, I have to shift into second gear. So we've left the finger off the button, we've left the start line, we've shifted into second gear, and we're hammering again. At this stage here, this button on the dashboard, I have another button here on the steering wheel, and that other button does the fuel system. So if I feel that the car could use a bit more power, I can just press the button, and it releases another solenoid that lets a little bit of fuel run back to the engine, actually leans the motor out. It's called a manual lean out, and it's sort of driver judgment sort of thing, is whether you want it or not. So you got to sort of press that. Most of the time, low in the gear I won't press it, and high in the gear I will press it, and then you shift into third gear, right? So then when the shift light comes on, and you shift into top gear. So now you're in top gear, and you're travelling down the track again. And mind you, while you're doing all this sort of stuff, you have to also be driving the car. It's a good thing to drive the car as well, while you're doing all the rest of the stuff. So we travelling down the track, hitting top gear. And this stage, we're getting close to the finish line, and we want to sort of get down there. And the parachutes have to be out before we get to the end of the track. So when we get to about 1,200 feet, 1,300 feet, right at the very end of the track, you want to pull the parachute, and the chute should be starting to come out. When the chute comes out, as you go through the traps and the chutes are out and deployed, that's a bit of a time to be concerned, because I mean, you come through the finish line, you're doing 220 plus mile an hour, whatever, and the parachute's out, and you sort of they haven't come on yet, they haven't come out yet. Hang on, they're not out yet. We're cool. But it's always a good feeling when the chutes come out and the car pulls up down the other end of the track, so, and you get out, and then you sort of look at it and see how fast did it go. Yeah, here we have the staging area. This is the pre-stage area where you'll see the crews walk up to the vehicles, and they'll just check the back tyres maybe. You might see some correspondence between the driver and the crew around the car, and on the top fuel cars and stuff, you'll see them walk in and turn things on and fuel pumps on and stuff inside the engines. It's actually the last area any of the crew are allowed to touch the vehicle, and they must then all walk away from the car as the car comes into stage. The staging means, if you see the three lights over here, you've actually got the two that are sitting close together, and then one a little bit further away. The first one that you come to as your stage is actually what they call a pre-stage light, which lights the very top light on the Christmas tree. That tells us in the car, the driver, that you're actually 9 inches away from the actual staging beam that matters. So you watch the pre-stage lights come on, and that's when you apply the brake. You'll hear the revs come up on the cars, and that's when it's on. The race is about to happen, and you're in the hands of the starter at that stage, but you're not in the hands of the Christmas tree. As soon as the second stage light comes on, which we call the full stage light, that's when the car rolls forward and lights the second beam up. When both of those lights are on in each lane, that's when the race has begun. The starter then, it's up to him to hit the button and send the cars down the racetrack. You'll see some duels on the start line here. They come in, one guy might pull the pre-stage light on, and the other guy might know that fella's having a problem holding the car there. So what he'll do, he'll just sit there and fox. You've got 20 seconds. As soon as 20 seconds lapses, you have to be into that beam, or the starter just flicks the red light on in your lane, and the other car can just go down the track for an easy win. So you've got 20 seconds, so all the fooling around the start line that we try and all keep away from, but does happen from time to time, is all over in 20 seconds, just the way it has to be. I mean, there has to be limits to what that sort of thing can go on. And then the third light you see in the line over here, that's actually the red light. That's what the timing lights in drag racing, the actual timers, don't start until you break that third beam. But if you break that, they don't start when the green light comes on. That's a very misinformation in drag racing. You have to be at that. The third light beam is what actually starts the timers. Therefore, the distance that it takes from when the green light comes on to when the driver breaks that third beam there, that's what you call the reaction time of the driver. And what they do, so you can go under and over, they call it 0.4 is actually 0. So if you hit that green light exactly 1/1000th of a second as the green light comes on, so you're exactly perfect, you'll get what they call a 0.400 reaction time, which is perfect. You will see one or two a meeting. The times that I've done them over the years, I just call them red lights that I didn't quite work out. You know, they just red lights that I stuffed up, I suppose. But when you consider that in a race meeting between the top qualifier, that's number 1 qualifier, and the number 8 qualifier, there might only be 2/10 of a second. Okay, now on the Christmas tree, as I said before, there's 4/10 of a second between each light. So the lights at the start line usually dominate completely who wins the race. This area here from the start line to the 60-foot mark as we drive past the Christmas tree is an absolutely critical situation in drag racing. Like I was saying before, there's 2/10 of a second is really important, and what we call our 60-foot times, which is the time you leave the start line to the first set of timers that you drive past on the racetrack that the front lights break. My car's done it in 0.992 of a second, and that is the quickest Doorslammer in the world. Some Doorslammers do it in 1.2, so there's a whole 1/10 of a second to be gained just in this 60 feet here. It's all to do with clutch settings, engine leave, and the ability of the car to travel through this distance fast. A lot of guys, just the later style cars, it's been a lot easier not to do the quick 60 foots and to try and put a bit more down out further. You see a lot of the fuel cars nowadays, they'll come out here and they'll do their burnouts and they'll back up, and they 60 foot in 0.8 of a second. 0.86, 0.85, and you'll see those things will come up to the 60-foot mark here, and they are roaring. And it's the clutch dust that you see shooting at the back of the car that is what's let them do that. The clutch systems in the car allow that to happen. There's not a lot of drive given to the vehicle in the first 60 foot, and it sort of allows the tyres nearly to roll through this distance. There's so much horsepower there, and even in door slams and stuff, the clutch settings are critical in this area. And like I say, there's a whole 1/10 can be gained here, 1/10 can be lost or gained in this 60 foot as you drive past the Christmas tree. And I can assure you, 0.9 of a second to travel 60 foot is fast in a 57 Chevy. And you know you're doing it, and it's very critical that everything is right there.
In June 1996, at Willowbank Raceway, Victor Bray, the Revhead tomato farmer, made the incredible happen.
Victor Bray, how fast can he go? Qualified with a 6:45. Norm, you know this car backwards now. What can it run?
Oh, I never guess. I think I know, but if I ever said it, it would jinx it.
Well, we've seen a 30 from this car before. They weigh 2,700 pounds. They're heavy. It takes a lot of horsepower to run that fast. Chris Tynan is...
In a perfect harmony of horsepower and traction, the 57 Chev clocks 6.29 seconds at 225.79 miles per hour. An Aussie had snatched the Doorslammer record from the Yanks to become the quickest and fastest in the world.
I've done a lot of sort of runs over the years, and you can sort of feel, and it wasn't that good, and you get out and you think, this guy's going to tell me that was fast. And you get out of the car and you think, now, I did that run, and I thought, now everything just went too good. I saw the shift light in low gear, I saw the shift light in second gear, I drove at the other end, the shift light come on at 1,000 foot, so I know it went to high revs, the parachutes come out, I pulled up, and the parachutes pulled up, didn't pull me up, so I was probably going pretty fast. And you sort of sitting on, and I was rolling around the corner that particular run thinking, that was healthy, that was a good healthy run.
I jumped about 6 feet off the ground on the start line, I think, and I don't know, it was just a really good moment.
I cried, ran up, oh, it was wonderful.
And how did Victor decide to celebrate the big day?
I had a cappuccino and two little biscuits, and it was a really nice afternoon. Oh, and 2 bottles of rum.
Oh, it was sensational. It was great for the sport. It was great for Victor. Victor's brought a lot of things with him. He's brought Castrol into the sport very strongly. That's good for us. He's brought a personality and a strength into the sport that's been amazing, and that's what racing's all about. It's about having heroes, and for him then to develop his personality and then go on to be literally the best in the world was fantastic.
So what's life on the road like for a world champion racing team?
We go pretty much all over the country, and we go Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Brisbane, up to Mackay, and we've been to Tamworth, and anywhere they've got a racetrack, I've been there, and I'll make sure that I'm not rushing. I'll drive daylight hours and have a look around and try and enjoy myself, and I'll try and make the travelling a part of what I like to do. I mean, we hadn't had a Christmas at home for like 10 years, and all their birthdays have been on the road pretty much, or we haven't been here. And I mean, you do lose a lot of that sort of thing, I suppose. Drag racing is a form of entertainment. I'm probably not the only entertainer in the world that doesn't have Christmas at home, so I mean, it's good. I mean, they want to run Boxing Day at Eastern Creek, I'll be there. I'll run Boxing Day at Eastern Creek. It's a good day to race. Fans want to turn up that day, we'll be down there. Kids don't mind, we're all down there, we'll have Christmas, and it just takes a bit longer for Santa to find us. It's a lot of fun, a lot of the guys, a lot of camaraderie sort of driving around the place, and you get to know a lot of the guys pretty well, and I probably don't go to the racetrack with this burning desire to blow everyone else's doors off, I probably should look at my competitors and probably hate them, but maybe, I don't know, I just don't, if I go there and I like to go and have a beer with them, I like to have a talk to them and have a chat to them. If they need some parts, I like to give them the parts, and if they want to have a yarn, if they're in trouble or having some trouble, I like to help them out. Bit of R&D, a bit of R&R, I should start getting R&R and R&D mixed up again. After all, when everything else is said and done, and you're at the racetrack or you're sitting at home in your lounge room, we do all this for fun. This is supposed to be fun. It doesn't have to be a big evil thing where everybody hates each other. And it's definitely a travelling circus, and some of the crew say I'm the biggest clown there, but no, it is. It's pretty enjoyable.
It may be fun, but the serious business of racing is never far from anyone's mind. And Victor's competitors are well aware of his reputation.
One of the hardest men to beat. He's fast and he's good. He's a nice guy. Bit of a stirrer, but he's a good, nice guy.
The thing about Lucky that gets me going sometimes is, Lucky, there's a big meeting on up down Melbourne, you going? Or there's a big meeting on at Eastern Creek, Lucky, you going? And Lucky will say, no, I'm going fishing that weekend. I'll say, how can you go fishing when there's a race meeting on? And he said, no, I enjoy racing, I enjoy fishing. I can't comprehend that. But that's Lucky.
He's got more parts than most of us, and he's got better gear in a lot of cases, and it takes a lot of skill to get round Victor. When Victor comes to Perth, he comes to my place for a visit, and vice versa and that. But on the track, well, he's a competitor like anybody else, and we're all both out to win,
In the days of getting 200 mile an hour runs in 6 seconds and things, I was hearing about this guy from the West called John Zappia. Never even knew him from a bar of Solvol, And I heard about this guy just run a 7.2, and I'd think, hang on a minute, that's nearly a 6, isn't it? He's just run 198. And I go, hang on, this isn't supposed to be happening. This is supposed to be, the East Coast, blah, blah, and, Anyway, you hear John goes this, he does that. Then he ran really fast a couple of times, and, then I sort of got to meet him and got to know who he was and where he was coming from and that. And he's he's a real die-hard racer. Nothing much else means much to him, and you know, I mean, he's very family orientated. But I mean, as far as racing goes, John's a real hard nut. He's balls and all, everything all in. You know, hold nothing back. Who cares? Let's just do it this run, and then we'll worry about next run after this run's over.
Well, he's the best, eh? He's the quickest. Whoever's the quickest is the one you like to beat. But I sort of like racing him, you know, because he's the quickest, plus he's a good bloke, you know. We got the record for the quickest forward in the world, and Victor's got the record for the quickest Doorslammer in the world, so it's good, really. I mean, Victor's, in my opinion, is the best thing that's happened to drag racing in the last 5 years, you know, so...
Benny Gat's probably the longest term, most respected drag racer in this country as far as Doorslammer racing goes. Him and Joe have been around for, I think it was 342 years or something, and they've been around since the 17th century. They've done an awful lot of racing. They've been right at the top of nitro racing. They've been in the early days, they've sort of done, there's not much they haven't done, and they've settled on Wild Bunch racing in their Falcon and Top Doorslammer in their late model Ford. And no, they're great guys to be around a racetrack with. They're real barrel of laughs, good fun to be with. And, you know, if anyone... race meet's not a race meet without Benny and Joe Gatt there.
One heck of a tough customer, yeah, definitely, yeah. Since he switched to the screw blower, he sort of pulled away from the rest of us considerably. The screw blower's being more efficient, so, I mean, hence the bigger gap. So we've had to change over to a screw blower ourselves so that we can hopefully narrow the gap between him and us.
Peter Gratz is you know, he come on the scene a couple of years ago. He's pretty tough to beat. I'm probably guilty of going out there too hard each time and trying to go as fast as I can. He takes the tack of he wants to win the most amount of races he can, so he does.
We'll be out there trying our best this weekend, and so will the other guys. They'll all be out there to try and pip him as well. So who knows? Anyone can win. You only have to have one bad mistake, one slight error, and you know, you either win or lose a race because of that. You know.
If I had to pick one guy out of this Australian we're talking about, if I had to pick one guy out, I suppose that the hardest guy to beat's Peter Gratz. The guy I most like to race is Peter Gratz, and if I'm going to beat somebody, the guy I'd most like to beat's Peter Gratz. But I suppose the guy I like to beat is really the guy in the other lane, and just at this particular time it happens to be him.
As a team, they all race one another, all want to beat one another, but at the end of the day, it's all here to provide entertainment for the crowd. Yeah, Victor was very strong in getting the association off the ground in the first place. And if anyone didn't need an association, it was Victor. I mean, he's got it pretty well. I mean, he's had to work to get there. But yeah, he was very much for the association. Of course, he's a great ambassador for it.
At each meet, the big transporter rolls up at the pits and another race against the clock begins. Of course, the first job is to put the engines back together. Once the cars have passed muster at scrutineering, it's time for the first pit warm-up.
You start the engine up, you warm it up, and you check all the rockers because you know they've got oil under the lash caps and stuff like that to make sure that you know the engine's run now, it's been warm, and you just want to make sure all that part of it's right. Double checking everything that you've put the car back together properly, that all the all the clips and all the safety things are in place, all the bolts are tight, and you haven't sort of forgotten. And the guys will check it 2 or 3 times for me.
Now the team's ready for the qualifying runs.
Then obviously on the first run, when everything's new in the car again, and each time we go out there everything is virtually new, obviously it's what we call a shakedown pass. You go out there and you try not to actually, unless you're really late or something, it's your last one shot, you'll just run the thing fairly rich or something. You'll do a run that basically just determines the state of the racetrack, the state of the air on the day, the fact that did you get the engine together properly. And you'll come back and you'll check it all out. You'll check the oil filter, you'll check all the rockers again, you'll make sure the gearbox all shifted properly and all sorts of stuff. You just have to determine after the first run exactly your tack for the day sort of thing. So on the second run, you want to be seeing a reasonable sort of number. You want to put yourself in the field. If you didn't get in the field in the first run, you really want to be getting into the field pretty solidly on the second run. And maybe that's the only other qualifier you're going to get. So by this time you've altered your clutch settings, and you've pretty much got yourself where you want to be for the day. Computers in drag racing, you have to always remember that computers in drag racing, we're not allowed any management at all. Only thing we're allowed to do is log data. So we're allowed to log data on a run, And at the end of that run, we're allowed to download in our computers and read what happened on the run and make alterations manually for the next pass. But then the racing starts, and that's when things get really hard. You're very pushed for time. You've got 40 minutes to an hour between each round. You have to go through the engine meticulously, like the rockers and the bottom end. I mean, you have to check the filters and the gearboxes and continually check that nothing went wrong in the run before, tyre pressures, make judgments on the track, you know, make a call on the track, watch who you're going to run in the next round, how does he run his race, you know, do we need to be really stepping up here, are we running the top qualifier, and you know, you got 60 minutes and they're going to be calling you in 40 minutes, you know, they're going to start screaming, you know, top Doorslammer to the staging lanes now.
Victor's made it through as top qualifier, but the margin for error is down to nil. The smallest mistake from here on, and he'll be out of the running.
I mean, you might be top qualifier, he might be bottom qualifier, but that's only just a word someone tagged on the end of your qualifying position. That's got nothing to do with who's going to have the good, the bad luck, who's got the good, the bad lane, and was he foxing when he qualified? Did he want to qualify number one? Did he not want to qualify number one? Anyone can beat you on the day, it doesn't matter who they are, and it doesn't matter where they qualified.
As it turns out, Victor scores a convincing win over Lucky Baleri to make it into the final. The fastest Doorslammers at the meet are about to go head to head. Peter Gratz in the left lane is determined to give the world champ a run for his money. Only a few yards away, Victor's equally fired up to outdo his own record times. In his quest for outright horsepower, the car gets loose at the 300-foot mark. As the tyres start to smoke, Victor's forced to back off the revs. Incredibly, it happens again at 700 feet, and the foot comes off the throttle once more. Despite the setbacks, Victor still clocks a superior speed of 220 miles per hour. But over the distance, Gratz pips him at the post by 1/100th of a second. As Marie and the crew reach the end of the track, Victor realises he's blown it. With no one to blame but himself, the frustration's hard to bear. Even champions have their bad days at the office.
Okay, now we've got past the 60-foot mark, and if the car's still going straight down the racetrack, there's a lot of back-offs in that first 60-foot area. That's the area that, like I say, the handling of the car and the clutch setting's critical. Now we've got past the 60-foot mark. Usually, by now, the car's back stable again, and we're making our way down the racetrack. Okay, now up to 330 feet. There's an awful lot of time can be gained from the 60. If you successfully travel through the 60 and you get to this, by this time you know you're in the car. Like the car, it's on a mission, okay? When they leave the start line, you know, you need to be nearly an octopus sometimes to get it past that 60-foot mark. But by now, it's really marching. You're in low gear, and the engine revs are coming up, and the clutch is locking up, and that thing gets out of there. You know, the camshaft's coming up into its prime, the supercharger's coming up into its prime, and the thing's really, and the traction in this area is absolutely critical. It's probably even more important than the 60-foot area because the clutch, everything's coming together here, and it's going to drive through this next 100 feet or so, and then drive down. This is a really fast time on the racetrack. This is when they're probably on the accelerometers and stuff we have in the vehicle. The start line, it registers higher because you're standing still and then moving. But if you drop the actual instant of taking off, this area here from 60 to about 400 or 500 feet is the quickest acceleration plates on the racetrack, and believe me, it feels that way too. It's the fastest part of the race, probably the most concerning too, because if the car is going to drift off the centre line, the top half of the racetrack, if you look in the middle of the track here, there's actually what we call a groove. It's the dark part in the middle of the racetrack where the majority of the vehicles have been travelling down, and we call that the groove, and it is the most highest traction part of the track. You move one way or the other way out of the groove, and you've got one tyre on sticky, one tyre on slippery. It's really, really dangerous. So in this area, you're trying to keep the car straight, you're trying to stay in the groove, and even if you've got to steer the thing back over there and get it back in there, because that's what determines where you are for the rest of the racetrack. Okay, here we are. We're probably at about 400 feet here, and there's another thing that happens in drag racing that's very, very untidy for the drivers. It's what they call tyre shake. It's a bad mixture of racetrack traction, clutch settings, and tyre pressures. And you'll see a car that tends to smoke, they actually leave a set of dotted lines on the racetrack. Well, between here, from the start line to 400 feet, is about where the cars are going to shake the tyres. We call it rattle the tyres. It's very, very violent inside the car, and it means you just have to back off. There's no driving through it. You know, some guys will and you might get away with it, but it does damage a lot of the cars, and it happens in this area, this first 400 feet. Here on the racetrack here, we have this track at Eastern Creek has a concrete start line, and the start line finishes right here, and it turns to bitumen. So there's a differentiation in the surface here. You don't only just see it and feel it here, it's also when you're driving, you may, it depends on the weather conditions and the way that the whole track was set up and the way that it's been prepared and stuff, there has been instances where you can actually smoke the tyres driving off the concrete onto the bitumen. And it's only because of the preparation, weather conditions and stuff. Here today it looks good, it doesn't look like it'll be a problem. I mean, if you're still straight here and you're in the groove and you're heading down the racetrack, you're probably in with a pretty good chance to get to the other end, you know. Well, here we are at halfway down the racetrack, 660 feet. It's another one of the incremental timers on the track. The incremental timers are at 60 feet, as we talked about, 330 feet, 660 feet, 1,000 feet, and obviously the 1,320 foot mark at the end of the racetrack. Each one of these, so we can help tune the car and set the clutches up in the car. What they have, they give us the ET, the elapsed time, and the mile per hour for each of those increments down the racetrack, and this assists us with timing. Again, in the middle of the racetrack here, depending on the surface again, the temperature, the weather for the day, the weather for the few previous days, and how well it was prepared, depends on whether a lot of cars can go up in smoke in the middle of the track here. And that's just the way it is. I mean, the track on the day is what you have to judge. You have to judge the condition of the track, the gear ratios in the car, the clutch settings and the tune-up in the car. You have to go down the racetrack. At the end of the day, you have to go down that racetrack as safe and fast as you can. And that's what it's all about. Understanding the incrementals on the track, understanding the surface of the track, understanding your gear ratios in your own car. And once you get all that right, it's too easy. Okay, by the time you get to the 1,000 foot mark, you can see the finish line down there. The finish lines are designated by the white crosses on the centre of the racetrack. It makes them fairly easy to see it at speed, although there's always stuff on the side of the track, you know, the lights and stuff. And at 1,000 foot, you're really looking for some mile an hour then. I mean, the car should be in the middle of the racetrack. Things should theoretically and hopefully be going all right at that stage. And you come up to the line, the parachutes on the drag race vehicles actually have to be deployed before you get to the finish line, so they open at maximum speed. And that's what makes them come out good and clean. And so probably by the time you hit the finish line, you've actually got the parachutes out. If you're looking for a big mile an hour, you can possibly what they call drive it out the back door, which means you'll drive the thing past the finish line, then pull the parachutes. And that today, the way they get the timing, the mile an hour, they actually measure 60 foot before the race, the finish line, and 60 foot after is the old method. And they used to time the distance used to take to travel over that 120 feet. But nowadays what they do with all the latest technology and the new type of racetracks, and the new type of timing systems, I should say, they've got them over 60 feet. So the finish line is actually the very last light on the racetrack, and they time it from 60 foot before, as you can see here. And so it's driving it out the back door is nowhere near as important as it used to be, but it's still, if you want to go for good mile an hour, you're best off staying underpowered till you get to the actual finish line and maybe not deploying the chutes. It's not a good practice, and I don't do it unless I've absolutely desperately got to, and there's obviously some racetracks in the country that you can't do it at because of the short braking area. And when they come out, you know they come out. When the two parachutes deploy together, there's on the accelerometers in the car, there's about 4 Gs of deceleration, which is in top fuel racing and stuff in the States where they're doing 318 mile an hour, it could go up to 5 Gs, 5.5 Gs of deceleration. Actually, in some of the older drivers that are stuck around as long as they can, causes some retina dislodgement in some of the most famous guys, Don Gartlett's. It's extremely violent. It's violent on the pads, on the front of the seat belts and stuff. But it is another thrilling part of the thing. I mean, once you've left the start line, you've driven the thing down the racetrack, you've reached 220 mile an hour, in my case in a Doorslammer, and you get to the finish line, you pull the parachutes out, and when they blossom, if all's going well, you know you're going to stop. You know, they're out, you're pulling up, and you roll up in the corner there, and you're looking for someone jumping or cheering in the crew, or you might have an idea what went on, but close racing, and you know, coming from behind, it's very, very difficult to understand who won that race until you actually pull up. You get round there, the marshals at the other end for some reason don't ever usually know what's going on. I suppose it's a big job for them to know what everyone happened all day, you know. So no, it's a pretty exciting time. Then you wait for the crew to come up, or you know, if the crew's coming up blowing the horn, yelling and screaming out the window, something good's probably happened. But if or that they might have been offered a job with another crew.
The heart of drag racing is horsepower, and lots of it. While the incredible speeds over the quarter mile are always a thrill to watch, the best drivers are well aware of the dangers involved.
But you have to understand every time you go out there, I mean, you have to be ready for that run. You're going out there to do 220 mile an hour or something. I mean, you're not going out there to push a pedal bike down a hill. I mean, these cars go extremely fast. They get very loose. They slip around a lot. But like I said, they were actually built to go that fast too. So yeah, the danger of it is extremely bad. We do every single thing we possibly can to make the cars as safe as we possibly can. We source all the information anywhere in the world that we can to make these cars as safe as we can. But accidents do happen.
Oh, I'm always worried about every pass, but it's a very safety-minded sport, and Vic's a very safety-minded guy, so you can get run over by a bus. But, so yeah, I do worry about him though.
As Victor well knows, there are times you just don't push your luck.
We revved it up, dropped the clutch, seemed to have broken the blower belts, leaned out. There's a little bit of oil in the track. We've broken a transformer, they're actually oil filled. We're not too sure, we need to go back, tear it apart a bit, drop the pan on that, rip the head, see what we've got wrong with it.
You pulled it off pretty quick, so you sort of knew fairly quickly what had happened.
Oh yeah, they take off pretty fast, and the thing didn't take off, so I'd get her off the racetrack. The next guy behind me don't want my oil in his racetrack. I've had experiences where an oil down's been in the lane before. Like I've just say you've picked the left lane, and the guy before you's oiled the track down, okay? And then in the old days, that was like, you know, like a dead cow carcass on the Ganges, you know, you'd push it off with a stick. You know, you wouldn't go near that lane for a bet. But the thing is that nowadays, with the preparation skills that the racetracks have got, you know, if someone oils down a lane, they're going to go out there with rice husk, and they're going to put rice husk right down the lane. They're going to get a big vacuum cleaner out and vacuum it up so there's no oil left on the racetrack. Then they're going to go out there and spray it with VHT a few times. Then they're going to blow it off and heat it with a jet dryer. And, you know, you've got to sit there and think to yourself, I think that's the lane I want to go down. Because that lane has just been just had like $5,000 spent on it. You know, and you've got to think to yourself, I mean, fair enough, it had oil in it 20 minutes ago, but now I think that's the best lane. And nowadays, you know, depending on where you are and who's preparing the track and the conditions and how bad the oil down was and you just got to sit there and watch. And yeah, I would tend towards the repaired lane more often than tend towards the non-repaired lane when you got lane choice.
Wherever he goes, Victor seems to be one of the most popular figures at the track. In the punter's eyes, he can do no wrong. Despite the pressures, he'll still find a moment to say g'day and have a chat. And his fans sure appreciate it.
I love the burnouts, all the smoke.
Yeah. Oh, the burnouts and that?
Yeah, the burnout and the speed.
Victor Bray is one of the best racers ever.
He's a good racer, and he doesn't act the fool on the track. Not a show-off.
Oh, Victor, he's a good driver. I like his burnouts. They're all good.
Oh, you know, he's the fastest Doorslammer in the world, I believe.
He's one of the best. He's the most awesomest racer in Australia, mate.
I mean, they love him, the crowd love him. He's great with the media. He's great with the fans. They absolutely love him. You just need to walk around here, little kids in Victor Bray t-shirts. That's what it's about. It's good for us, it's good for them, it's good for the sport, and it's good for Victor, and that's very pleasing for everyone.
Victor is the sport's greatest entertainer, and with that comes a magnetism. I mean, people want to get close to the guy, and his greatest asset is the fact that he's so approachable. It doesn't matter whether you're a 5-year-old drag racing fan or whether you're a commentator or a journalist. He's always got the time, he's always got a smile, and he does a great job. He's a marvellous ambassador for the sport. Victor, to a degree these days, really is drag racing. The sport has always been there and enjoyed popularity, but when we saw Eastern Creek, for example, in Sydney, come to fruition after the sport being in exile for about 8 years with the closure of Castlereagh, Victor Bray became an overnight hit with Sydney fans, and then came television, and I had the great fortune of being involved with those early days of drag racing on television. And as a commentator, whenever Victor Bray was involved, you knew something special was going to happen. And the race fans have that sort of anticipation as well, but he is drag racing.
Drag race is a very Americanised sport, and we need to really tailor it to Australian crowds. And here they love to see the Doorslammers racing, they love to see Top Fuel, you know, Nitro Harley Davidsons are even very, you know, acceptable to them. And I mean, things that people want to see, yeah, you've got to give them to them. That's what they want to see, that's what they're paying good money to come and see entertainment. And you know, we enjoy doing all the racing for sure, it's such good fun. But I think people never need to take their eye off the ball, and that's the public are the people and the fans are the people that matter in this whole equation. And if we want to be successful motorsport people, we want drag racing to be a successful motorsport, we have to accept the fact that the paying public and the fans of drag racing are the people that are the single most important group in the whole of our motorsport.
These days, the family home is crammed full of awards, souvenirs and treasured memories. It seems Victor's won every trophy possible, with one notable exception. During 1996, Victor competed in and won the first official Group 1 Top Doorslammer Championships. After 20 years of burning rubber at drag strips all over the country, he finally scored his first gold Christmas tree from Andra.
Thanks a lot, guys. Well, look at that, they finally handed me one. That's terrific. I just want to congratulate Peter and his team. They did
Gold Christmas trees, but they're like the gold logie of Australian drag racing. And like, you know, I've missed out on 5 or 6 of them by a thousandth of a second, and another 5 or 6 by a couple of thousandths of a second, and you know, like a bridesmaid. That's why I'm wearing these bridesmaid dresses around.
I know exactly what I'm doing with this.
With so many triumphs already behind him, where does the world record holder go from here?
I think I'd absolutely love to race in America, but you know, you got to remember, in America, if I turn up in America's shore with my car and paint it flat black and start racing, I'm no one. You know, like, that's it. When you get over there, I mean, maybe nowadays, you know, this guy's the fastest guy in the world or something, you know, might mean something to him, but basically when you get over there, you're one of 500 people and no one even cares that who, what, when or how, you know. And if you have to start from scratch and you have to go out there and you have to start making your own name all over again, and I mean, if you want to race against those guys, you have to make sure you know what you're doing, and you have to make sure you can beat them at their game, in their country, on their racetrack, with their cricket bat and ball. So I would absolutely be delighted to go over to America to race. I'd love to go over to America to race. I don't see me ever doing it, but you know, we've had a couple of plans in the past that have fallen through, and you know, if ever the opportunity arose and I could see myself financially and time-wise and family-wise to go over to America and run a season over there at a level that I want to run at, which is the very top level, I would grab the opportunity with both hands and run with it.
So what about Top Fuel?
I've been offered to drive a Top Fuel cars a couple of times now, and they're all right, I think. I mean, I think they're good fun. I suppose in a way they're the kings of the sport. I don't think they hold the public's imagination in that the way that they are. I mean, they're just wild, explosive things that just, you know, they get to the other end of the track, it's, oh wow, look how fast that went. And if it doesn't get to the end of the track, it's, oh wow, look how that blew up, you know. and they're wild things. That I don't really see me. I'd love to have a go at the. I'm not really interested in driving top fuel or nitro. You need little lightweight jockeys for that. But what really attracts me about top fuel is the engine tuning and stuff. It looks so hard and so unpredictable and so hard to do and so hard to get right that I'd really love to have a crack at it.
Or maybe top alcohol.
It's an excellent scene in Australia, so yeah, maybe I'll do a bit of top alcohol racing, do it as a team manager for a starter, and if I like it and I can be competitive at it and I like the scene in top alcohol, I think I'll I have my own ideas of the chassis. Coming from Doorslammer, I have my own idea of where I want a top alcohol chassis to be. Where they are ain't where I want them to be. So I'll invent my own chassis and I'll play around with a bit of stuff and build one that I can get in and out of, easy enough, safe enough, and yeah, maybe do some top alcohol racing in the future. I'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Whether he ultimately decides to take up the challenges of a new class or just keep pushing the 57 Chev to its limits, there's no doubt that this easy-going Queenslander will continue to thrill the crowds with his own unique brand of showmanship. For Victor, it's still like the old days, just cruising from town to town looking for the next race. But back then, no one would have guessed that he could have taken on and beaten the Yanks at their own game. What they didn't know was that Victor was prepared to put in the hard yakka, to learn by his mistakes, to always get up and have another go, to be the best he can be.
I just believe I should be doing the very best job of it while I can do it, and while the fans want to see me run, and I can arrange to be out there and race and stuff like that, and do it at a level that I really enjoy doing it at. I really want to be out there doing it, and I believe that I should be doing it at that level, and then one day, it'll all be over and I can say that I give it my best shot, and I hate to look back on things and say I never did that to the best of my ability. And I know there's some areas, like I was saying a minute ago, about you probably should go to the racetrack and the biggest want at the whole day should be to win. Like, I want to win, don't ever get me wrong, I definitely want to win. But it's not an all-encompassing thought of mine when I turn up at a racetrack. What I want to do at a racetrack is go to the racetrack, have an enjoyable day's race, and load it all back in the truck and go home safely. If I can do that, that's my first preference at a race meeting. Enjoy the fans, enjoy the company of my family, enjoy the company of my crew, enjoy the company of the other racers, talk to the fans all day, pack it all up and go home, give them a day's entertainment. I have fun, they have fun, we all have fun, safely locked up and go home. If I can do that, that's more important to me than winning any day of the week.
Despite the glory of a world record, all the media attention and the responsibilities of running a professional racing team, you couldn't say that Victor's changed all that much.
We're trying our best. Piss off, dog. In like being a farm boy mechanic and sort of a self-taught mechanic, dog, piss off.
Victor Bray, tomato farmer, good bloke, and world-class drag racer.